Welcome to episode 33.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Who Did That Voice, where we take an in-depth look at voiceovers.
It's a new year, and if you're like me, you are already thinking about warmer weather and taking that getaway to that tropical or exotic destination. Maybe you plan to travel to Walt Disney World or Universal Studios. No matter what kind of trip you plan, 3D Travel Company is the company for you. Just visit 3dtravelcompany.com and let them know that Trenton sent you from Who Did That Voice. Or you can book on www.whodidthatvoice.co and click the Book Now button. For a limited time, Who Did That Voice listeners can receive a Disney gift card for qualifying Disney and Universal trips booked and traveled by the end of 2017. Book today and travel away.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is part 2 with Kerrigan Mahan, the voice of Goldar, Magna Defender, Jeb from VR Troopers, and Beast from Team Knight Rider. If you haven't heard part 1, please listen to episode 32 before you hear this one. Alright everybody, let's get back into the action. So, to begin, our special guest comes all the way from outer space, wears gold, has wings, and hates the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Yes folks, we have Goldar from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
You will soon pledge your allegiance to me!
No way, Goldar. No way.
We shall soon see! Behold! Do you even recognize yourself, Tommy? Do you see what a gallant hero you used to be, Green Ranger?
Our special guest has not only had the opportunity to play one of the most revered and loved villains of all times on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but he has also gotten to play one of the Super Rangers from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. That's right, he played Magna Defender.
Time to finish what we started.
Magna Defender? Zika?
You will carry on the work we began. My weapon is now yours. You will be the Magna Defender.
Me?
It is your destiny.
This next show our special guest is from is one you may not be as familiar with. After Knight Rider, a show came out called Team Knight Rider that had 5 vehicles that all had AI, artificial intelligence, talking vehicles, of course, just like Michael's original car kit. So this car our special guest got to play was called Beast, which was a modified Ford F-150. If you haven't seen the show, check it out. Here's a clip of Beast.
We have to destroy the virus.
Beast? My incendiaries have a mile range, but they'll fry the pilot as well.
Do it. Jen, we have to. If that virus gets out, millions of people will die.
Okay, Beast, take it down. It's almost out of my range. I hope I can still leak it.
Well, our special guest is no stranger to working with Saban Entertainment. Another special character he got to play was Jeb the dog from VR Troopers.
Something strange happened while I was gone?
You mean besides everybody dancing like they're stuck in guacamole?
Yeah, besides that.
Well, some babe did put a CD in the jukebox just before the zombie-thon started.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Kerrigan, you were able to come back in Power Rangers. You've played several different villains over the course of time, but later you actually got to come back as one of the Power Rangers in Lost Galaxy. You played Magna Defender. What was it like returning to the series after playing such a big villain, Goldar, to come back and play Magna Defender?
Well, again, as most people don't realize, Scott called me on a semi-regular, semi-basis, and, what are you doing? What do you have in mind? You want to come and do some putty work? I said, when? He said, today at 3. I said, I can do it. how long? He said, about an hour and a half. I said, good, yeah, I'll come up. So it wasn't like I'd been away from Power Rangers. You know, we went up, we do this, we do that. I do what we call a monster du jour, which was, you know, the monster of that particular show. I remember doing one called Monitor Org, I think, where, you know, I say, was kind of doing a weak version of Goldar, and I really, you know, I or Scott should have said, you know what, let's do something else different for this. You know, quite frankly, it was rather lazy on both of our parts. But I was actually in New York in 97. I took a one-man show that I directed and did some writing on, too, called Maddie, An Evening with Christy Mathewson, which starred another voiceover cohort of mine, Eddie Frierson. And we ran in Los Angeles for 9 months, and then we took it to New York and ran off-Broadway for 5. So I was in New York in 97, came back, and I think Magna came up, actually. Was Magna about... Was it 2000? Do you remember what year Lost Galaxy Generation was? I think it was 99.
Yeah, Kerrigan, you were right. Lost Galaxy came out in 99.
Anyway, it was near... I know it was before 911, and that's probably why I was just telling the Maddie story, because I had just come off what was one of the most exciting times of my life. Taking a show to off-Broadway is pretty darned wild, pretty exciting. And getting all those reviews, those wonderful reviews we got. And before I turn around, I'm home. I hadn't planned on coming home to live. Again, I was going to stay in New York. I did stay in New York a while. And I came back to do my taxes in March. And I looked at the sunshine, and I looked at my beautiful old 87 BMW, and I thought, I'm not going back to New York. I'm done. I'm going to stay here. And I think soon after that, Scott called, and this is actually all around the time that, I was doing promos for Sweet Valley High and Breaker High after school show, and I was doing Team Knight Rider, and I think right in that period I did Magna. And he called up and said, do you want to come up? I want you to play a role. He had that kind of power. Scott was able to actually pass. Meaning they took a meeting and Scott would say, oh, what about Kerrigan to play Magna? And then they all kind of in that meeting said, yeah, perfect. Anybody else you want to bring up? And Scott would say yes or no. In this case, he said no, which is I find interesting to this day because I don't recall knowing what I was going to do with him exactly when I got up there, but somehow we kind of landed on, I looked at the footage and we talked about the character this time quite a bit. And I wound up kind of just plugging in a, rather organic fashion into kind of a Clint Eastwood-esque feel. And we both agreed this is the voice. This is, it's mystical and eerie and deep. And then as I recorded him, he turned into the best, I think the best, I have to say, and I've done over hundreds of characters, and he probably was the most demanding character. He had nothing to do with Goldar whatsoever. As far as being a ranger, it was all-encompassing. He was a tortured soul. He was an anti-hero, and I gave that character absolutely everything I had as an actor, to the point that I was actually moved behind the microphone, which is not to say it's the absolute first time that I was emotionally moved. That's what we're supposed to do, is act. And most people don't realize that when actors cry, it is not acting. It's crying. We are just able to do it. And we're able to turn it on or turn it off, the good ones. And I remember the last scene struggling. So when you saw it, or when you see it again, as I chose to about 2 years ago to see if I was really any good, I was crying at the end of my own damn performance, which I don't know if that's a good thing or maybe I should be then scheduling a shrink appointment. But
well, I would say it's pretty powerful if your own words move you still to this day.
Yeah, I was moved. I sat right in my living room crying at my own bloody performance, which, needless to say, quite happy that it was as good as I thought it was. And, there's always that horror when you go back and look at something, oh, does this hold up or is it really any good? And it was. It was awfully good. And so, I'm saying to you that this role was probably the tour de force of my entire career.
Wow, that's very big. That's magnanimous.
It was. It really was. It took every. I really reached down deep, and when I hauled myself into that, into the fire, or into wherever I took myself, I can't quite exactly remember, but it was curtains for me, and it was my choice, and I did it because I knew it was the right thing to do, and it was a challenging role. I'm not going to kid you. There wasn't an ounce of walk through in that role. I earned my money.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Kerrigan. I never realized how deep of a role that was for you. And, it definitely seems like a lot of differences from what you played in Goldar compared to the Ranger. But he was very moving, when he's crying over his son who's passed and his son's still encouraging him and saying, go on, Father, you can do this. And, the ultimate sacrifice that Magna Defender does make, that's one of the things I love about the original Rangers was I felt like the writing and the way the shows were just done really well. And
and Trenton, I think that was probably, quite honestly, I think it was probably one of, if not the best arc of all generations.
Yeah.
That 9-episode arc was pretty powerful. It was some of the best, if not the best, writing on the show. And I will also say that there were no humorous outtakes one would find during that recording. I can promise you, there was not once did I say to Scott, "Oh, let me do something with him here. I'm gonna screw around. I'm gonna no, didn't exist."
Well, it's very evident in the way your performance comes through because it is very powerful. It is very moving and it is tear-jerking. You really bring the emotion that character is feeling to life, and it's very evident by how it's portrayed on screen. So,
well, thank you. I thank you. I'm the first to critique my performances, and I would be the first here, and I would have been the first in my living room to throw a magazine at it and say, this sucks. Well, it didn't, and I'm very, very proud of my work on that, and I'm fascinated to this day how many people come to my table at cons and don't realize, 7 out of 10 don't realize I played Magna Defender.
Well, he's an absolute different character. He's very different in the vocalization, but he's also different in his presentation. You know what I mean? Which is good for you as an actor that people don't know. I say 7 out of 10 coming to your table not knowing means that they have something to discover every time they come to your table and realize,
they're
wow.
thrilled. They're blown away. I mean, they're like, oh my God, what? You were Magna? What?
It speaks volumes of who you are as an actor.
That's always fun. Yeah. Yeah, it's a gas. The whole career's been a gas. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
Well, Magna Defender was one of my favorite. I call them Super Rangers, like Tommy when he originally was the Green Ranger. I call them the Super Rangers because they're the ones with the extra power and they come in at the moment of dire need. And Magna Defender was definitely one of my favorite growing up. So it's most fascinating to realize that you played him, and to be able to speak with you about this role is surreal.
I'll bet it is. I say to the people who come into my table always, sometimes their hands are shaking, and I try to reel them in and settle them down and get them laughing and relaxing, but I say it to them sometimes, and I say it to you, and I say it to whoever is listening. This is absolutely as surreal for us as it is for you. We did not know that we were a part of a true television legacy, and it's beyond a wow factor. I mean, it is emotional. It's emotional to know you have fans in little tiny countries like Estonia that are your fans, and it's like wow. I did contribute. I brought something. I did contribute. I gave something back without even knowing it. And now I'm going to these things and still giving back, which is, I'm doing it now. I'm giving you my stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate all your time that you've donated to sharing your stories and the inside facts and realities that sometimes come with being in voiceover. With voiceover as an industry, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's grown up listening to your voice and they want to get into this voiceover industry? What would you say to them?
Well, what I say is probably not as politically correct as what a lot of other people probably would say. Again, this is where, the rubber meets the road. The BS I don't go for. I think probably best case would be don't go into this and stay in college and figure out in this crazy day and age what you want to do with your life, because this is extremely difficult. The politics is difficult. I caught this in the day, and I'm very lucky, very fortunate, and very grateful. I caught this in the heyday. I should say I was in the tail end of the heyday. And what I mean by that is it was still accessible, and it still made a lot of sense, and producers still cared about what you did and what your resume looked like. And today, like so many other things, boy, oh boy, it's all so haphazard, and there's such a lack of caring who or what you are, or what you can bring to a character or not bring to a character. And so, I'm sounding very like stay out, go away. It's impossible and it's heartbreaking. On that note, I'll say this. If you are insistent and you have to do it and there's no stopping you, then my advice is real straightforward and simple. And it has little to do with most people's answer. And my answer is this. Everything is contacts. If you're in Kansas, get out. Because the only place this is going to happen for you is in Hollywood, California. Not New York City. Not Funimation in Dallas. Hollywood. Now, what do you do when you get there? You go find the best voiceover teacher? No. You go find the most popular voiceover teacher. Who is the flavor of the month? Who is the voiceover guru who has somehow found themselves into that role? That flavor of the month role. That's where you need to be. You need to be with the flavor. And then you need to rub shoulders with all those other VO people that are with the flavor, and you need to make friends with them, and they need to like you, and you need to go to the parties that they go to, and you need to hang out at the restaurants they hang out at, and you need to go drinking with the ones that you need to go drinking with. And with all that said, you better be talented, because if you're not, forget it. Go home and don't let the door hit you in the ass. End of story. Next.
So, I feel like you give the raw truth and you don't sugarcoat it. And that probably will seem very refreshing to a lot of my listeners because you're not giving the fantasy version of how to get into the industry. You're giving it like it is and telling them it is very hard. And if they want it, they're going to have to fight tooth and nail for it.
And I am so sick of hearing this horse crap on these panels of, if you work hard and cream always rises to the... No, it doesn't. All you have to do is turn on the television and watch American Idol or The Voice or America's Got Talent. And you mean you're telling me that this guy has been singing in bars for 20 years and nobody's picked him up? There's your answer, kids. There's your answer, okay? There's a lot of talent out there, kids. A lot of talent. So everything I said is mandatory. You better be thick-skinned. Again, my first answer is stay out. Why would anybody want to put themselves through this? If you have to, you have to. But if you're going to, do what I said. That's it.
Well, thank you, Kerrigan, for being honest and sharing the unsugar-coated version.
Usually there's a lot more swearing in there, but I'm behaving.
I appreciate it. Well, Kerrigan, so with you moving out of the Hollywood area, are you doing anything currently with voiceover, or have you kind of pulled out of that with moving out of the area?
No, it's a combo plate.
Okay.
You know, I do local jobs here and there. I have my microphone and my little studio here where I'll send stuff, a job here, a job there. I'm not actively hunting down voiceover work. I'm called on occasion. I go down to Los Angeles to do Family Guy. I'm their resident Jack Nicholson or Michael Douglas or James, what's his name, the director I did, and I just did that nasty murderer guy, Robert Durst, I think his name was. Anyway, I just did that. That's fairly recent. But Linda LaMontagne, the casting director, LaMontagne, calls me on occasion and says, "Do you want to come down and do one?" And I, I'll do a Family Guy. So no, I'm still a player, but I'm not actively doing games. The only way to be active is down in Hollywood. Although I am going after a role, and I'm going to leave that a secret. There is a role on a very hot anime. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And it has my name on it, and we're going to try to land this because the thing is so popular that it would completely resurrect my career if I do this character. And I'm not looking to resurrect my voiceover career. I don't need to resurrect my voiceover career, but it would be fun. If I do this character, it will be a great role. It will be great fun to do. And it'll be great fun at Comic-Cons to have this role ongoing, a current, fresh role. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, I'll be keeping my eyes peeled for any new anime roles that pop up.
Okay. Yeah, that's what you're going to have to do. I can't talk about it.
Well, maybe once you've done it, we can have you back on the show.
Oh yeah. If I land that, I'll be doing this stuff. Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Kerrigan, do you have a website or a way in which people can reach out to you, or if they wanted to contact you to hire you for voiceover services?
Well, I had a website for years, and I had all my voiceover, my trailers, my promos, my animation reel, all that stuff was on it. But I realized over all those years that, quite honestly, it's just not how people ever get jobs. It's word of mouth. So, as far as my contacts these days, I blew up the website, which, again, I had for over a decade. But basically, I have my Facebook, and that's the True Goldar Kerrigan Mahan. And I have a YouTube channel, YouTube/Kerrigan Mahan, and that's where you can see my Goldar and me's, which are little vignettes that I've shot for fun. There's no money in them. I've shot 5 of them total. And if you have not seen my Goldar for President, I'd like to believe, and I'm told it's very funny. I also have Goldar for President T-shirts, which there aren't many left, but there are some, and they are available. They're $25. That includes shipping. I'm not sitting here pitching or selling at the same time. I guess I am, but I do have these, and they're great fun. And the speech that I do as Goldar with me in the video, I introduce him just like, just doing a parody on all of the madness that's going on with all of this crazy political climate that we're in. And we'll leave it at that. But you can basically look at that, and if you want a Goldar for President T-shirt, I ship them out literally immediately. You go to goldar@kerriganmahan.com, and if you want to hire me for a gig, you can do it through there too. And that is through PayPal is how you order a shirt. And then, of course, I guess there's the old Twitter, and that's you can tweet me at the True Goldar. But that's, I think, everything. I think I've given you all I got, and I have help. I'm not going to kid you. I have help with my social media. I do the best I can, and I'm getting better at it. But my dear friend Ryan Glitch is my admin, and Brandon Benfield helps him with that, and we all work together with it. So that's kind of how you get in touch with me through those ways. To really get directly in touch with me, Goldar@KerriganMahan.com is the way to go. That way, it's just I get the email and I can respond to you in any way immediately. So that's the easiest for me. The other ones are, sometimes they have to tell me go to your Facebook and go here, and I find it all very user unfriendly and somewhat overwhelming, but I'm going to have to get used to it because this is the day and age we're living in, right?
Absolutely, it is. Unfortunately, sometimes I find managing everything myself is a little bit difficult because there's so many different things you're supposed to be on, and it gets crazy sometimes.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I just went on. They all insisted I do Instagram, and I'm actually talking to Ryan tonight. I said, look, I need help. I'm getting all kinds of Instagrams, and I don't really know what or how I'm supposed to do this. And he said, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do it all. We're going to get everything linked up together, and you're going to be okay. I'm going to walk you through everything. And, it all sounds just delightful. It's like, oh, good, we're going to go out for cake and ice cream. And it's like, no, we're not. It's going to be hell.
Oh, wow.
So again, to all of your listeners, to all of my fans, please be patient with me. And it's not because I'm not responding in some cases. It's just I don't know how, and I'm working on it.
Absolutely.
I'm turning 62 years old in January, and we did not grow up with this. I grew up with a beeper, and that came in late. That's how we got in touch with a beeper, a pager. And that wasn't around, and I was working prior to that. I produced the one-man show without a telephone, without a cell phone in 1996.
That's amazing. So, Kerrigan, we were talking about Power Rangers, and did you mention that you were some of the voices of the putties?
Oh, yeah. Anybody jumped in and did putties.
Okay. I always wondered who did that.
Most people don't know that, but it really was a case of who's recording next or who's finishing recording, and then maybe, Scott would call in some other actors that didn't necessarily have any roles or weren't recording anything. They just come up and do the putties, be it Bree Brosey or Kirk Thornton or, some of those that just didn't have any role yet or just basically driving up to do a job. And, some job it was, but it would simplify things for Scott if he said, okay, wait, I don't need, and she's recording, and then he's recording, and then we'll do the putties and we'll go to lunch. So, I'd sometimes say, it's already been predetermined. Or sometimes Scott would say, hey, we're doing putties. Do you want to jump in?
That's awesome. Was it just kind of random verbiage?
What's that?
Like when he directed putties, like what do? Do you just kind of go in there and just start jabbering? Or?
Oh, yeah, you look at the screen and there's a putty cue. And the putties, more times than not, we didn't even rehearse one. We're just looking at the screen and doing them.
Wow.
So, yeah, where 3 or 4 or 5 of us are just doing it. You know, so.
Wow.
Needless to say, it was not rocket science.
Yeah. Yeah. I
and,
figured.
we got the extra bump in money to do the putties. It was like another session. So, we got a putty session, and, we were there. So, what's another 45 minutes of work?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kerrigan, I have one final question for you today, sir.
Yeah.
The question I have is, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Well, it's funny. Earlier in this interview, I was talking about, you want to leave this behind and that behind. And as I get older, I realize that, we're things do wind down. Unfortunately, in your 20s, there's no end to any of it. Your 30s, there's no end. Even in your 40s, there's no end to any of it. But you start, coming into, I'm only just coming into my age, and it changes a little. You start to realize you're coming into those years. And, when I see Michael Forrest at 87 years old at Power Morphicon, and I realize I'm only 20 some odd years away from, you go down that road, and then you go down the road where you don't know. I hang up and I start down the stairs and I am slammed with a heart attack. So we just don't know anything. So I guess my legacy is going to be Goldar, quite frankly, and I'm okay with that. I mean, if I died today, I don't think there's any question. I've left behind honesty. I've left behind my word is my bond. And I've left behind making a lot of kids very happy, and a lot of adults that have memories that I have not and did not really know that was happening while I was doing that job. And if somebody had told me 20 years ago, well, this Goldar character is going to be with you for your whole life, I would have been, somebody's got to get this guy off drugs. He's confused. And so I guess that's it. I think that is my legacy. Now, is that to say that, what if that big, fat tentpole script you have under your belt sells and everybody's talking about it and this, that, and the other? Well, I got to be honest with you, Trent. I don't care how big a movie, even if I wound up directing a big movie or a small movie. I've done a lot of directing, and I'm doing more and more and more writing. I don't think anybody's going to be able to make an argument that the legacy is going to be Goldar. I'm not embarrassed. I'm only proud of that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's bigger, way bigger than even I realize to this moment.
Well, that's a big word, and I truly do believe that Goldar for sure is a legacy that you will be known for forever.
I think he holds up. If he's held up this long, and I think and I'm not going to say a couple of the celebrities' names, big actors, one of which I knew well and hung out with, who is long since dead, and he has come up a number of times in mixed company, his name, and I have been met with, who's that? And I'm realizing that this character is going to outdo some of the biggest Hollywood stars ever, which is crazy, and it speaks volumes, but I don't think anybody can much argue with that. I think Goldar is going to hold up a long time because you can't point to that many shows that have been going for 23 years. And the fact that we were the originals is never going to be taken away from us, and it's going to be remembered because, again, we have Netflix, We have all these things that, the original fans in their late 20s and early 40s and everything in between are now showing their kids. So I'm every generation right now.
Absolutely. I totally agree, because I'll show it to my kids, and the original Rangers are my favorite. You just can't beat the first 3 seasons when Mighty Morphin was everything.
And that's what 9 out of 10 people tell me, if not 10 out of 10. So it's not like you're just saying that or I'm saying it.
Yeah.
That's a fact. It's a proven fact. We are the favorites.
Well, and the episode count on seasons 1, 2, and 3 exceed everything else. I think they had 60 episodes a season for 3 seasons. And I mean, right there, that's one season. That's 3 different seasons now, because they break it into 20 episodes, and that's it. And you don't even get to know who the Rangers are or who the villains are. And they blow through all the superpowers and the super megazords so quickly that you don't even get to learn what their basic powers are before they've already moved on. Whereas with the original Power Rangers, it was like a family. We knew the characters, we knew who they were, we knew the villains well. And there was just a depth to it that will never be recreated.
You just shared something with me that I'm going to share something with you, which is an interesting way to end this interview or begin to wrap it. I did not know what you just said until this moment. I did not know that we did 60 to their 20 in 3 seasons. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, because, back in the day, they used a lot more of the Japanese footage, and the series just kept going and going. Now they break it into seasons based on fall and spring when they air episodes. But when Power Rangers originally came out, it just kept going. There wasn't really any timeline or anything. And there weren't as many shows running back in that era either.
Good point. We have so much content now that it's just completely overwhelming. And keeping also in mind, we didn't have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and Tumblr and texting and all this other stuff. None of that existed. Dude, in 93, nobody had a cell phone.
Yeah, nobody.
Nobody had a cell phone. If you were paged, you went and pulled over and found a payphone. Well, also, and this is a good note to wrap on. Remember, fans, remember, listeners, Goldar never died on camera. I was never turned to sand. Show me where that happened, and I will show you a lie, because it doesn't exist.
You're absolutely right, because he goes off with Lord Zed and Rita on Serpentera, I believe, and they leave Earth.
There you go. So there's room for old me to come back, number 1. And number 2, let's leave it on a cliffhanger. Where in the world and what is happening with my character in the movie? And if you all think I know, you're wrong. I don't. I am as perplexed and as confused and nerve-wracking, would put it mildly. I cannot tell you how much fun this has been. I was looking forward to it.
I was too.
I know we were supposed to go half this time, and I have no regrets. I have no regrets whatsoever.
I don't either, because you literally are part of my childhood, and like I said, it is surreal, and it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on today, and just to get to hear your stories and learn from you, because you're Goldar and you're Magna Defender, and you've done some other amazing things like Dragon Ball, and I don't know, man, you've just been such a part of my life without even knowing it, and parts of shows that I've always been fascinated with and grew up with. And it's just amazing because you have such a diverse voice. I didn't realize all these different characters were you, but they were all characters that I had a fondness of or an attachment to somehow. So it's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure, beyond a pleasure. And it's all music, baby. It's all music.
Well, Kerrigan, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so very much for all of your time, and no regrets, that's for sure. Would you please give us a closeout today as Goldar from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
Oh, well, that is certainly something you did not have to ask for, Trenton. Just keep in mind, I am King Goldar, ruler of the universe. And if your listeners don't listen to this podcast, oh, I can promise you this, very bad things will happen.
Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us this Tuesday, January 10th, for our next special guest, all the way from the UK. This is our first international guest, so please tune in. You won't want to miss this episode. Hey, do you ask yourself who did that voice? Well, if you do, go to our website, www.whodidthatvoice.co, and click on the Episodes tab. Choose an actor, pick their name, and see pictures from the different characters they voiced in their career.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.